Good morning. This is Luda Kopikina with GAI Insights. Welcome to the daily show where we review AI news, essential, important, and optional, saving you time and pointing you in the right direction. Today we have John, Adam, and Ankash on our team, and we have a guest reviewer, Kevin Petrie. Welcome, Kevin.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Kevin is Vice President of Research with the data analytics and AI, I guess, firm, BARC. And he's deeply into what's happening with GenAI, AI in general, data trends. So we're really happy to have you, Kevin, and get your impressions and insights. So great. Let's start with today. We have 7 articles. Several use cases, announcement by Inflection AI, and Fujitsu discussion, and the like. So really interesting set of articles. Let's start with the first one. Ankash, please.
Thanks, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from NVIDIA, and it talks about Pugato, their new GenAI model.
Yeah, very interesting. Text and voice and all of it and images are coming together. What do you think about this, Adam?
Very interesting. Not available and still, in my opinion, probably optional news. There's a lot of the capabilities that this offers are out there already. It's just that they've made effectively like the GPT equivalent for audio, and something that has incredible flexibility. In terms of everything from like what are some of the examples here? So you can specify certain accents and emotions or vocal characteristics, or do things like
sorrow.
Yeah. So it's interesting stuff. It feels like it's still too much sort of on the research edge of things in terms of being an announcement of a capability, but no real details about bringing it to market. So I had it as optional.
Okay. Kevin, what do you think?
This is quite a day of video in terms of the articles that we're reading. I think optional as well. I think it's important to look at overall the disruptive force that video and creativity is undergoing. But I think this particular article underscores existing trends, and I agree it's optional.
Yeah, and it's very much will give people who are artistic, right, tools to control the output through text, a simple controller. John, okay with optional?
Yes, for all the reasons just said.
Okay, great. Let's do the next one, Ankash.
So the next one comes from India, and it talks about Meesho, who has cut their customer call costs by 75% using large language models.
Yes, voice is the new UI. What do you think about it, John?
Yeah, I thought I was going to give this an optional. It is a nice use case. It's always fun, when you're dealing in India, you've got 160 million customers, which is like 15% of the base. I think the startup, it's the notion of being able to take the regular language models and to have them, work in English and Hindi on a regular basis. To be able to deal with a lot of background noise. And if you spend any time in India, if you're on a mobile phone outside in the city, you're probably going to have some significant background noise, I guess, in any city, especially there. So I think, customer service is a critical function, and one that is really, really getting automated or at least supported. So I would give this an optional. We'll put it in our use database, but I think nothing surprising here.
Yeah. Kevin, Adam, okay with optional? Anything to add?
Yeah, I'm noticing the comment from Ashish about AI at scale, and his feeling like this is important given, it's not just right the cutting expenses by 75%, but what massive expenses we're talking about cutting by 75%. So I could see an argument there for important. I would say, John, debatably, I thought this was optional. It might not even go in our database because it's so light on details, right? They talk about using off-the-shelf models, but we don't even know what models they're using or anything about really how it's designed under the hood. And it's a use case we've seen enough of before that I felt it was probably optional news. The case Ashish makes is probably the argument that could convince me to call it important, though.
Okay, Kevin.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
the only other,
Aside
oh, that's okay. The only other quick point I'd add is that what I liked about this article, it is light on detail. They talk about CSAT, customer service, customer satisfaction ratings going up 10%. That's good. That's promising. A lot of the articles about improvements in customer service with AI don't talk about customer satisfaction, which I think could be the lagging drag on all this stuff, because nobody likes talking to an automated attendant. And I think that you are playing with fire on a medium to long-term basis with your customers. So that's good that these folks have some promising indicators there in terms of their human customers.
So
Yeah.
would you put it as important or optional, Kevin?
I'd go optional as well, but I think that's an important asterisk there.
I don't know. I'm kind of moving toward important. Ashish is making a good case.
you've kind of convinced me, Kevin, on top of Ashish's point.
Yeah,
Well,
me
Inadvertently.
too.
Yeah.
Thinking more.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, I think it's true about customer service represents, I think 4 to 10% of the Indian GDP growth. Anyway, so the fact that they're automating is pretty gutsy. So I'd go important.
Yeah, me too. And the impact, they're saying 95% is being handled and completely resolved by this bot, right? And only 5% requires human interaction. So this is good, but yeah, with a caution that people do not want to talk to assistants. Anyway, okay, let's put it as important. Next one.
Okay.
Next one.
Okay, the next one comes from Luma. Luma has introduced Dream Machine AI video model into its full creative platform and a mobile app.
Yes. Kevin.
Okay, so I'm going to say important on this. It underscores trends we're already aware of, which is that we live in an era of, I really enjoyed the HBR article that you recommended as essential last week, abundant expertise, in which the know-how to create is becoming democratized. And this is an example of that. It's also an example of the power of small language models that are specialized and domain specific. It underscores the power, as described in the lead to the article, of small companies taking on gorillas in the tech space. They do have some major investors. $80 million in this AI space is not a ton of money, but they've got some marquee names there. So I think there's some pretty disruptive forces at work. It will be very interesting to see in coming years what happens to Hollywood, what happens to the creative industry, the entertainment industry, because there's so many people that are creative but don't have the know-how to go to create a video, create a movie. And you picture all the production sets and all the people and the actors and everything else that goes into creating a live movie. If you could start to disrupt that and empower otherwise creative people to do things from the desktop, it becomes pretty darn interesting. I'm taking a note personally. I have my cousin's daughter is out of college 2 years, and she works in the video production space, helping Hollywood refine their stuff after each day of shooting. And I want to ask her what she thinks as well. So I would say important.
Okay, John, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely give it important. I mean, it's available. Ashish says that, he used this thing yesterday and the experience was fantastic.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, we're in a TikTok world, right? And the ability to generate videos is going to be a competitive advantage in terms of the attention economy. So at least important, and, here it is, cheap, good, fantastic. We're going to go straight from imagination to reality here.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Okay, Adam, okay with important?
Yeah, I would encourage anyone who hasn't played around with Luma to give it a try. They have a fairly generous free plan. Mostly you just have to be more patient. but you get a good sense of it, and they just continue to ship. I've been very impressed with how quickly they're innovating, and not just doing what other people are doing, but really pushing boundaries and bringing new ideas and new innovation to the space. So definitely happy to help platform Luma and give this an important.
There was a quote in there, visual thought. And this was interesting. They essentially enabling the capability of you have a thought and you can create it in graphics and the like, and that gives you the power. So fascinating. Important it is. Let's move on.
Okay, the next one comes from OpenAI. So OpenAI's Sora video model was leaked.
Yeah, so this is mine. I rated it as optional. It's kind of, yeah, it seems like OpenAI signed up 300 people, developers, to test the model, and they rebelled. They said, okay, you're using our free labor and whatnot, and assembled a group that leaked the model, which is sometimes happens. But this is optional news. I think OpenAI saw what's happening, closed the access temporarily. But I mean, this is normal, and actually, these developers should feel privileged to see an early tool in development. I'm not sure what else to say, but it's optional. It can happen. What do you think, John, Kevin?
Optional for me.
Optional sounds fine. It is interesting to see the degree to which OpenAI has become a lightning rod for social angst related to AI, and a reason for folks to debate about what's just and what's not when it comes to AI and contributing to those projects.
It's
Copyright
not only AI, right, Kevin? I mean, in the software industry, this is a practice that we have been using.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and people.
Yeah, it's not new in that sense. That's a good point.
Yeah. So I don't know what they were so fumed about. I really do not. I mean, I'm.
Rise of the humans.
That's right. Okay.
Humans
Anyway,
strike back.
let's put it as optional. I would think actually it's super optional, and move on to the next.
I was, if asked, going to pull out Paul's Nothing Burger on that one.
Yeah,
it's been a while since we've seen it, but I think it warrants.
Totally.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, let's go on. Next one, please.
The next one that we have comes from LangChain, and it talks about how startup Airtop has built web automation for AI agents powered by LangChain ecosystem.
Yeah, this is a very interesting use case with some great insights from Airtop. Adam, what do you think?
Well, you set it up like that. I was going to call it optional. So I'll have to wait and hear how you counter. But so this felt a little too much like a commercial for me. Like, hey, look, you can build with LangChain, and it was like, yeah, and the two things is that it can it has an API, so it can extract structured information from web pages, like lists of speakers or LinkedIn URLs and stuff. And then it can also act. And so it can take actions on a website, like entering a query. And I think it's capabilities that already exist in market, and they're just showcasing someone using their tools to do these things. So I had it as optional. Maybe there's something I'm missing.
Yeah, I'll share my view, but
good,
John, Kevin, before I do, what's your thinking here?
That was optional as well. The social digital twin, yes, great, complex societal changes, but
Optional, Kevin?
Yeah, I think optional is fair. I found myself craving a little more detail. These agents are pretty interesting but high risk things, and they'll involve figuring out how to handle data, applications, models, and the life cycles with each of those, and figure out how they all fit together in an iterative fashion. So this article could have done more to describe some of that, and I don't think it really did.
Yeah, no, it lacks a little bit of detail. The reason I called it, I'm optional as well. I'm fine, but I think it is laying the infrastructure for the agents to actually come to fruition. So the LangChain is equipping the AirTop, right, with a lot of capabilities, switching models, evaluating what the agent does, checking the information step by step. So it's a playground, if you will, or the sandbox for working with agents, and it's happening. So when they get this together, this will be a piece that many people can use. So it's just laying the infrastructure for the agents to come together. So, but optional, I think, as an article. Okay, great. Optional it is. Let's go next.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Fujitsu, and Fujitsu is applying GenAI to create a digital twin for Japanese healthcare policy.
Yes. Kevin, this is an interesting case also.
It is. I'm going to say important. So they're recommending use cases that in themselves are somewhat pedestrian for using AI to model the impact of social policies. But it's a very timely use case for a sector that is not known for innovation, which is government. Developed countries, especially Japan, have an aging population. The notion of taking a chainsaw to bloated, slow, clumsy bureaucracy, which Elon Musk is doing here in the US, supposedly, and just looking for ways to streamline government planning and making sure you have effective policies is very timely. And so it could be that what Fujitsu is describing here, which helps largely local governments with planning and understand the impact of policies, I think could be an interesting step forward. And I think it could be an important read for AI experts within the public sector within developed countries.
John, Adam?
Yeah, I could support important. I mean, I think it's it's quite this whole notion of how governments and healthcare is going to get reconfigured is vital. Fujitsu is, I think they're huge in healthcare. I was surprised to find Samsung's healthcare business is over 5 billion just in devices and so forth. I don't know how big Fujitsu's is, but yeah, I can support important.
Adam, important? I'm sure you will.
Yeah, I could. I felt like again, it's so light on detail.
That's true.
That it just feels like a nice concept to me. I get your point though, Kevin, and I can see where just to highlight it because it is for a fairly unique and important use case. It could be justified as important, but yeah, they say Gen AI and machine learning, and I just wanted a little more about exactly like what are they doing with this stuff.
It's fair. It is a light article in that sense.
But I was tempted when I saw it to figure out who do I know in local, but it should be federal government to send it to, because this is fascinating and actually should be applied here in the US. It's just like digital twins predicting so the quintessential Japanese is finding where your investment will give you the best performance and best impact.
Reduce costs and improve outcomes.
Yeah, so improve outcomes. It's really valuable. So
it is.
Yeah, in that sense. Okay, how about we put it as
important,
optional, but essential for governance. Essential for governance. Kevin, you okay with that?
Yeah, I think that's a fair delineation.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, optional but essential for governance. Okay, let's go on, Ankash.
Okay, the last one that we have for today comes from Inflection AI. So their CEO is saying that they are not trying to make next-gen AI models now. They will be providing companies the infra to use GenAI models in their enterprises.
Okay, John.
Yeah, in the spirit of full disclosure, Inflection's a current client. I know Sean, but I was going to put this as optional. I think he is saying something that is really interesting, which is something we've been talking about, which is we think the real changes are going to be less on making mega models and more on doing inference. I love, he's kind of snarky, which I like, about, okay, we have a delay in latency, the software is slow and now it's the quote unquote thinking, which I really love. And yeah, I mean, I think that, I happen to think we're going to see a, big uptick in, increasingly private LLMs, behind the firewall or, managed by a combination of a vendor, or you put your own model in AWS and build it. And I think this goes back to our, topic of own your own intelligence. I think it's critical that organizations don't give up their cognitive capital and, to these big vendors. But I think this particular article is optional because it's a frontier model for sure, but they are moving toward a direction that we've been talking about for some time, and there's also just not a lot of detail. There's some fun insight, but not a lot of detail.
Yeah. So Kevin, what do you think? Do you think that inflection can become differentiated in the space of enterprise platforms?
Good question. I think it has a much higher likelihood of differentiating itself by focusing on small language models, applications, domain-specific use cases, than it does on trying to match the gorillas in large language models. Unless you're a gorilla, working on a big foundation model is just not the way to go because it's so resource intensive. The way to differentiate is to go domain specific with small language models, with stitching things together in a rich application experience and helping people apply that to domain specific data. So I think inflection is making a good move in line with industry trends about where the real opportunity for differentiation is.
Yeah, and they did a couple of acquisitions. They're on acquisition path, one earlier this year and two this week. And they're all about like access to data, handling your emails in an effective way. So this is all about efficiency and providing insights very quickly locally. So yeah,
So Luda, I would echo that. It's 3 acquisitions in the last 2 months. And really their differentiation, which I think can play out quite well, and it's smart of them to effectively pivot and focus on tooling, buying these companies and getting into enterprise, is being able to run on premise and being model agnostic, right? I think they're going to actually position themselves pretty well to make that play at the enterprise intelligence layer.
And they still
I think this news is optional, but
yeah, I agree.
Very good to see what comes of this.
Okay.
For a while, we were wondering, with so many people going to Microsoft and sort of that acqui-hire, if they were even going to survive, and it looks like they've at least found a direction and they're getting some momentum.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, great. This is all 7 articles today. Let's get the scorecard. Ankaj, if you don't mind. So we have 2 importance, maybe the third with the essential for governments, and the rest is optional. John, do you want to talk about the buyer's guide that it's available? Adam?
Yes, sure. Buyer's guide went live yesterday. We've had really good response. We've got over 29. We have 29 vendors profiled in that, and the really important value that this creates for the AI leader or the AI investor is that we focus a lot on what's real. We have 2 dimensions that we use that are critical. One is market readiness, and the other is strategic impact. And so it's really understanding what kind of value the tool can create and how much it's ready to do that out in the marketplace. So it's really that practical guide, and it should help folks increase their confidence, lower their risk when they make different choices in this complex market moving so quickly. In addition, we give a number of ways to think about where this kind of technology should be used with our WINS framework and our organizational maturity model. And last but not least, I think we have a unique, or at least been told by a number of reviewers who've worked with other research companies, a unique methodology to place folks on our grid of strategic market value and strategic value market readiness. It's got 25 factors underneath it and so forth. So really pushing hard to be rigorous on this. And last but not least, people need to think of this as a subscription because, look, we're in a dynamic marketplace. We look at ourselves as a real-time company where we're using a combination of our experts, our employees, and our robots to try to keep people informed on an up-to-date basis. So there'll be 4 more updates to this quarterly, so that whoever buys it for a mere $499 will get access to that over the year. And in addition, we have a great deal right now going on where you can get the report for basically $100 if you pre-buy your ticket to our conference in the fall.
Yeah.
So
thank you, John. Great. Ankash, I lost your scorecard for some reason. Could you reload it again, please?
Sure, coming right up. Yes.
Okay. And I want to say thank you, Kevin, for joining. Thank you, our listeners, for commenting these really cool comments. We will be off tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, but we will be back on Monday. Now my screen is not cooperating. We will be back on Monday. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone. And
bye. Thanksgiving.
We'll see you on Monday.